Welcome back to our LLM Ops video series. This is episode 5 of the series, and we are finally ready to delve into the third loop, which is operationalizing. Again, operationalization is all about getting your LLM Ops into production with easy deployment, quota cost management, continuous monitoring, safe rollouts, and content filtering for safety. You will learn how you can deploy for prompt flow using managed endpoints, automate deployment and variation with CI/CD integration, and continuously monitor both quality and operational metrics. In this phase, monitoring models that are deployed in production is particularly an essential part of the Gen AI application lifecycle. Changes in data and consumer behavior can influence your application over time, resulting in outdated systems that negatively affect business outcomes and expose organizations to compliance, economic, and reputation risks. Azure AI model monitoring for Gen AI application makes it easier for you to monitor your application in production for safety and quality on a cadence to ensure it's delivering maximum business values. Vishnu, can you show us how to deploy LLM flows, integrate with CI/CD pipelines, and monitor LLM performance on a regular basis?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Takato. So, like you mentioned, the outdated systems can cause issues with the service for the customers and their experience, and outdated systems are also vulnerable for attacks and so on. So, it is essential to deploy these models and keep them up to date so that they perform as intended. Azure AI gives you the capabilities on operationalizing these models, deploying as endpoints, and giving you all the controls how we can monitor this. So I'm showing the same prompt flow that I demonstrated, and the last phase is deploying this. So we have in the UI we have the ability to deploy with a manual click of a button, but we can also use CI/CD for automation as well. So if you click with manual deployment, and it's again pretty easy. You click on deploy, and you would specify the name for the endpoint and name for the deployment as well, and you will pick the compute that is needed for running this endpoint. And most importantly, Azure AI comes with inferencing data collection, which helps us monitor the inputs and outputs coming in and going out of these large language models, and also tracking all those metrics that we talked about: groundedness, coherence, relevancy, and so on. And the application insights helps you monitor the infrastructure. Is the endpoint is healthy? How much traffic is coming in? So it helps you and monitor those. So it's important to enable these two settings, and then you can set up the authentication type for it and enable the system identity or the user identity and so on, and you can deploy. It takes a few minutes to deploy this at the endpoints. So once the deployment is complete, you can go to the deployment section in the Azure AI Studio, and as you see there, in the deployments, you will see all the models that were deployed, and the connection that you have, as well as the endpoint that you deployed already. So this is the model that I deployed, the same the sales Contoso sales model that I deployed as an API. Once I click on that, it'll show me the details of it, like what is the endpoint, the keys, and so on, the health of this deployment, and the traffic, and so on. And you can test this deployment right here. Now you can ask the same questions like, what did Sarah buy? So you can ask these questions to the endpoint. It's pretty seamless. It goes to the LLM and give the response back. And imagine you integrate this API into the business applications. So all you need is this API and then the key, and then you can interact with these models. And using the endpoints and the keys, and we even have the samples for connecting from the applications. You see there like JavaScript and Python code, C Sharp, and so on. And when it comes to the monitoring, you will see a nice data about how the requests are coming in. They can monitor these metrics in the of this endpoint, and it shows a timeline here. But you can see more metrics in the Azure Monitor, and that's where you will see more the token utilization and the RPM and so on. It's pretty standard metrics within Azure. Seamlessly integrates with the Azure App Insights. And more importantly, the metrics relevant for the large language models. As we talked about, for this monitoring, I enabled three metrics: coherence, fluency, and groundedness. Among those five questions that I asked, all the five questions were good. The coherency metric was good, and the fluency was also good. But when it comes to the relevancy means like groundedness is the response that came out of this large language model. Is it grounded to my data? So you see there were two questions which are not grounded. So this is very valuable information for you to evaluate how the model, once it is deployed to production, how it's behaving. Azure AI Studio is tightly integrated with Azure Machine Learning Studio, where you will see more detailed information. So if I click on configure and view in Azure ML, you will see more detailed metrics of this monitoring. And I deployed this model, prompt flow model, a few weeks ago. I've been asking these questions on this endpoint, and it keeps logging the questions and responses, and it gives me a nice dashboard how the model is behaving. So if I click on previous run, this is the Azure Machine Learning Studio, as you see there, and the interface is slightly different. But for the monitoring, you will see how it has been performing. So if I click on previous runs here and see it keeps log of all the performance, like this one I did in February, and 4 questions were good and 1 question was not answered well. If I can keep on going here to the latest run and so on. And what I get here is, if I click on GSQ signal, I'll see the trend actually over a period of time. So for example, if I pick last 3 months, it will show a nice view of how my model is behaving over a period of time. So for example, on February 13th, my fluency score was 100%. Model was giving very fluent information. The groundedness was 80%. On February 14th, I asked some questions which were not relevant. The groundedness score was 0. And then February 19th, it went up. So this is how you nicely see the trends, how the model is behaving, and so that you can analyze and take the proactive actions. If you want to know which questions were not answered well, for example, here like the groundedness was 80%, here it was 0%. You can go into the details of it. So if you scroll down here, you will see the passing score, how many were good, how many were not good. And if I scroll down further, it'll even show me those questions which were not grounded well. For example, I asked a question about, this is the data about the sales. Now I asked a question about calculate the distance from moon to earth, which is not relevant at all. So it gave me a score of groundedness score of 1. So this is how you can access all this data from using this URL, And this is how you capture all these responses and see the visualization within the studio here, or you can even take it beyond into maybe a Power BI dashboard or something. So this is how you capture these evaluation metrics, how you track them. And finally, I will show you how to automate this. I showed you a manual deployment of this model. I will show you how to deploy using the CI/CD pipelines. And Promptflow SDK environment supports the CI/CD. And so here is a sample pipeline, CI/CD pipeline for GitHub Actions. And what is we need two pipelines for this. The first one deploys Promptflow as a model. Basically, it creates a Docker image, as you see there. It creates the dependencies like the Azure ML extensions and installing the Promptflow libraries, and then using these CLI commands like pf Azure, creating the Promptflow, using the Promptflow that we have with all the individual blocks, and finally registering the model into the Azure ML Studio, which is even now the Azure AI Studio. Once the Promptflow model is registered and it's validated and tested, you can then use the deployment pipeline, which is slightly different, to deploy, package all these these models and dependencies as a deployment using the deployment pipeline. So this is how it looks. You would again use the CLI commands to set up the endpoint name, and using the deployment creation, and even doing a quick test how the deployment works. A pretty simple workflow. So once you have it, you can integrate this with GitHub. So you can go to GitHub, and then you can run the pipelines from there. So we have a nice Microsoft documentation that explains how to set up integrate the GitHub with the Azure portal, creating the app registrations, and building these pipelines. Feel free to refer to this documentation on how to use the CI/CD pipelines to automate the model Promptflow model deployments, redeployments, and so on.
So yeah, so this is the end of our video series. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all enjoyed watching our LLM Ops video series, getting insights into how to use Azure AI to streamline your LLM lifecycle, from choosing the best models that work for your use case to operationalize your GenAI app development with Promptflow, and then constantly and quickly bring your apps into production. We have so many helpful documents and resources available in Microsoft Learn and Docs, so please check them out as you start building your GenAI applications, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.